Hello YouTubers, Andrew here behind the fader. Today I want to talk about whether it's okay or even possible to use 25-year-old speakers at an event to run the sound. Specifically, I will talk about JBL EON 15P. Now, the story behind this conversation is this. I recently was hired as a freelance audio engineer, and the contractor told me it was going to be a Talking Heads event. So the client asked for 3 microphones and a couple of powered speakers on sticks. No subwoofers, nothing fancy, All of this gear came from a contractor. And my job was to pick up the gear from the warehouse, bring it to the event, set it up, run the sound, then tear down and return the gear back to the contractor. Now, the contractor or production company provided 3 25-year-old JBL EON 15P active speakers. So this kind of speakers they provided. So they gave me 1 extra speaker just in case, which makes sense, they old. And also they provided 8-channel Yamaha analog board and 3 speech microphones, PG58 I believe. Now these speakers had seen a lot of use and still had the original drivers. Let me show you the room configuration really quick. So it's about 60 by 60 feet room, about 100 people capacity. You can see these 2 speakers. And before I share with you my experience and impressions of listening of this very old system in 2025, let's quickly take a look at the specs of the speakers. Here's a photo of the exact speaker I used. I don't know about you, but 2 things immediately caught my attention here. So it was built in the USA, or assembled in the USA in this case. A rarity these days, and it has 140 watts of power. So it's a 15-inch speaker. And if you take a similar speaker produced today, the power will be at least 1500 watts. 1500 watts, 10 times more powerful. Now, does this mean that over the past 25 years, audio manufacturers have learned to produce speakers 10 times more powerful? I mean, miracles, of course, sometimes happen, but this sounds like a trick or a free lunch. Okay, let's take a look at another characteristic of a sound system, sound pressure level, or SPL. This is a way of measuring the volume of sound expressed in decibels. Now here I have 2 spec sheets side by side, EON 15P on left side, QSC K12.2 on the right side. And let's take a look at SPL for these 2 speakers. Where is it? Right here. So for EON 15P, it's 127 dB and it's rated maximum SPL. Now for QSC modern speaker, and it's probably the most popular modern speaker in the same class, it's 132 dB at 1 meter in a peak. Now unfortunately, JBL spec sheet doesn't tell us if it's 127 dB in a peak or continuous. So let's consider the worst case scenario for JBL. So let's assume it's in a peak. So given that we have QSC has 5 more dB of SPL. But what does it mean? What this 5 dB actually means? So I would say that increase of 10 dB is perceived by the human ear as approximately twice as loud. So given that, we can tell that QSC K12.2 modern box is 1.5 times louder than old EON 15P. But okay, enough with these boring technical details. Let's talk about my impression of running audio on 25-year-old plastic boxes. Now, remember how I said that the client asked for 3 speech microphones? Now, we specifically asked for confirmation that there would be no band, no vocalists, no musicians, just talking heads. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When I arrived at the event to set up the gear and meet the client told me that they have a cover band with 3 singers, a digital piano, a saxophone, and another singer with his own keyboard. Can you imagine how surprised I was to hear all of that? But I decided not to argue with the client about the original request, so I started to figure out the musician's situation. I also thought it would be a great opportunity to test how speakers handle live music. So the band didn't have a bass section, so I didn't really need subwoofers. It was now clear that this Yamaha 8-channel analog board wasn't enough, and I need something better than these speech mics. Luckily, I had the Behringer X32 and 4 Shure SM58s in my minivan. I also decided to use an extra JBL EON 15P as a stage monitor. So right here. I didn't have time to worry about the visual representation of this entire setup, so I asked the event manager to provide me a small desk and set up the X32 right behind the band, right here, so just for easy access to preamps. I had an iPad and a Wi-Fi router with me, so I was able to control the X32 remotely and mix from front of house. I always have measurement mic with me, so I quickly pinged the room, and that's it. I didn't have time for any sound check. No, these musicians just showed up and plugged the gear, like the instruments, to the board, and show started. And you know what? Surprisingly, those old plastic JBL cabinets sounded really good. Yep, they also have like 90 degrees of horizontal coverage, and in these square rooms they work perfectly. I would say that for this type of event, the QSC K12.2 would not offer any advantage, really. I had plenty of headroom and fidelity. I didn't notice a significant difference in the queuing of these speakers compared to the QSC 12.2K. And I'm running QSC 12.2K weekly, so I know how they sound like. And JBL are really flat. They like almost exactly the same. Now, is the JBL EON 15P worth buying in 2025? Well, if you have clients for this kind of events, for talking heads, in a venue for about 100 people, absolutely, they will work perfectly fine. You don't need anything else. They're just perfect. They are 3 times cheaper than modern QSC 12.2K, and they were made in the USA in 2000s. I found them extremely reliable, you know. I recently had an amp failure on my QSC 12.2K and they were barely used. And QSC is assembled in China. So if you want real American quality, I would probably recommend the EON 15P. Here's another use case that I see for these speakers. So let's say you want to build a rig for small band. So what you will need? You will definitely need at least 1 subwoofer and 2 tops. Now, if you are on a budget, I would definitely recommend buying this EON 15P over any of other modern powered speakers that you can afford for this amount of money. It's basically $300 a piece. Now, in fact, I think it's better to invest in a good subwoofer rather than in expensive modern speakers. That is my personal opinion on EON 15P. Now, if you watched this video to the end, I'm guessing you enjoyed the content and don't want to miss my other videos, so please subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Hope to see you behind the fader next time. Bye bye.